So imagine walking into a gallery expecting loud, aggressive, abstract paintings, and instead you see this huge canvas that looks like color just kind of breathed into it. No heavy brushstrokes, no thick texture, just stains of blue, green, and pink floating on raw canvas. This is Mountains and Sea by Helen Frankenthaler, painted in 1952, and it quietly changed where American painting was headed. Mountains and Sea was made in New York in 1952, at a time when abstract expressionism was the dominant style. The famous paintings were big, dramatic, and very physical, like the works of Jackson Pollock and Willem de Kooning. According to an art historian, Robert Hobbs, in an article called Color-Filled Painting, the Post-War Context, published in the Art Bulletin in 1984, the ball gesture-based abstraction was seen as the serious voice of modern American art during the early Cold War years. Frankenthaler painting sits in the same moment, but it doesn't look like the popular works of that time at all. Instead of using thick paint and heavy marks, she laid an unprimed canvas on the floor and poured very thin paint so it soaks straight into the surface. According to the curator Michael Opping, in his book Helen Frankenthaler, Painting History, Painting Today, published in 2011, this experiment became known as the soak stain technique and later inspired color-filled artists like Morris Louis and Kenneth Nolan. The work was meant for gallery setting in the New York art world, but it feels like a memory or an atmosphere rather than a traditional solid piece. Helen Frankenthaler was born in 1928 and lived her whole life connected to the New York art scene. She studied art and entered the abstract expressionist circle, and she was already showing work while still very young. According to the writer Jane Levington, in her book Helen Frankenthaler, published in 1989, Frankenthaler painted Mountains and Sea when she was 23, and it is considered her breakthrough work. It comes early in her career and marks the moment when she finds her own visual language through stain painting instead of copying the other generation. The painting becomes a model for many of the later works and an important reference point for the other artists around her. If you look closely at Mountains and Sea, you can really see how elements of art are at work. The color is mostly soft blues, greens, and pinks. Because the paint is so thin, the canvas shows through and creates a sense of light and openness. The lines are loose and sketchy, almost suggesting a landscape but never fully outlining forms. This is almost no thick texture because the paint sinks into the canvas instead of sitting on top of it. The balance feels slightly off center, which keeps your eye moving around the surface. According to the critic John Elderfield, in an essay on Frankenthaler's use of color published in an art forum in 1985, she uses color as a kind of language, letting transparency and softness carry emotion instead of relying on big, heavy gestures. To me, the whole piece feels like a landscape that is half remembered and half imagined, held together through color rather than detail. There's also a cultural side to what she was doing. The art world around Frankenthaler was mostly male, and the stereotype of an important artist was this huge, intense, almost toxic masculinity energy from the painter throwing paint at the canvas. According to an art historian Barbara Rose in an article called The Second Generation of an Abstract Expressionism, published in an Art in America in 1966, artists like Frankenthaler shifted abstraction away from the aggressive image of the painter into a more lyrical and quiet direction. So when you look at Mountains and Sea, you're not just seeing a pretty abstract picture. You're seeing a turning point for Helen Frankenthaler and for modern art paintings in general. With this one work, she takes a risk and lets paint sink into raw canvas, and ends up shifting the whole conversation about what abstract art can be.